side. And that's actually going to help us out a lot because we want these to look more round anyways. So at this point, let me get these two just right, and then we're going to go ahead and throw in another edge loop. And let's align that to the grid. Alright, and then we'll just go in here and smooth everything out. I think I want that a little bit more. Yeah, it looks a bit better. And again, you can use the snap to vert to do things like this where you want it to look more rounded in certain areas. Of course, this is actually the handle is actually tapered a little bit, so this is going to have to be a little bit more exaggerated up here. Now, this is just going to be flat. We don't want this to look, well, actually we do want it to be out a little bit, but yeah, that'll work because the shape of, the shape of the shading implies that this has a ridge going down the center, so we can do that. We can give it all a ridge. Now you can see that this kind of got pulled out of alignment with the grid for some reason. And that's not really an issue. I mean, we can just go through and reselect all of them with a quick drag and then scale it down towards the grid and it'll look fine. But right now what we want to worry about is how to get this ridge here. You can see that there's a definite change in the shape of the hilt to the sword. And in reality, this sword design makes absolutely no sense. You need to use, you have to take into account the tang and how it would fit into this sword, and this setup is just extremely weak. But we're not worried about that. We're not going for plausibility here. We're just trying to make it match up with the sword design here. But that is something that you may want to take into account whenever you are making things is knowledge about how it actually works and how things really look within the context of what you're making and how things actually work. That could be a huge thing for you when you're making items. If let's say if you're making a gun, I mean obviously there's a lot that happens when you fire a gun, and if you don't know how that works, it could be pretty obvious when you make a gun. But again, you can also just fake it and make like a ray gun or something that doesn't have any actual moving parts, and you just want it to look cool. It all depends on what you want to do. Now, these are all kind of looking a little weird, not quite in alignment. When you're modeling something mechanical like this, something that has a hard shape to it, you want to make sure all the polys line up in a very even, incremental display. In a sense, you want it to look like it's like this ridge is really following a path. You can see, if I look at it like this, you can see the edges running down along the side of it. And you want that. You want that sort of you want that edge flow is what it's called. This is really important when you're doing organic stuff like people, plants, um, character designs and stuff. You really want to have that sort of uh, how do you call it? That flow basically. Um, Also, this needs to be pulled in a lot more because of the sword shape. Obviously it's a sword; it has to be pointy, it has to be sharp on one side. So let's make it sharp. Yeah. Um, so what we want to do here, um, now, this you don't really see here, but swords have two definite edges to them. Um, they have like the edge right here. This has to be razor sharp, and then they have a sort of uh, divot in a sense, like this. And we want to kind of pull this into shape so that it doesn't look so weird. But actually, this whole thing is kind of wide, isn't it? Let me try to pull this in just a little bit. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. And like I was saying, see how I did all this work up here? And maybe I don't really feel like doing it down here. Well, I mean, I could put it back here, and try to line it up and make it look just perfect, but I don't really have to worry about that because later what I can do is I can just cut off this bottom half, mirror it down, and then mirror it across, and then I have my whole sword done. So I only have to worry about this one section. So I'm just going to worry about that for right now. I'm just going to make that look good. And then down here is where it really needs to be finessed to give that really sharp edge to it. And obviously because it's a smaller area, you need it to line up better. See, if you look at it like this, that's not really, it doesn't really give that sharp feeling to it. All right, and then let me split this polygon right down the middle here, so I can cut it up easily. And let's go ahead and do that right now. Let's cut off the bottom. Boom. Oops, that's the bottom. Okay, so here we go. We have a sword. We have 1/4 of a sword. Of course, this looks a little weird if you look at it like this, but we'll just, it's no worries. We can just grab all of these. There, I grabbed that one on accident. And yeah, I got all of these on the bottom. I'm gonna hit this, double click it to go to open up its tool options. This is a scale tool again. Discrete scale. Have it set to 1, so you can just slap it down right into the middle, and then use the move tool to attach it to the grid, and with X, discrete scale off, just so I don't accidentally do it later. Alright, here's our sword. Hit Object, Mirror Geometry, open up the tool option, and then we're going to apply here. Oops, wrong direction. So undo, change direction, apply. So now we have half of a sword, and then we want it to go down vertically, and then half a sword. And because I merged with original and merged with vertices on, it's automatically merged all together for me, so it's done. This is our sword. We could call this done if we wanted. And just paint everything else that we wanted to do with it on. This comes out to 268 tries, 140 faces. That's pretty lightweight. This is pretty simple. I mean, this is a pretty easy sword. I mean, it's done. Of course, we could totally add in as much more detail as we wanted. We could go in here. We could really work in that jewel and that design and that and the shape of this ridge. And let's just say that we wanted to do that. Let's go over here and let's focus in on this, and we'll just do here. Let's undo all of our mirrors, so we just have this half again. And let's start doing detail work. But why not? We'll just do a little bit of detail, and let's just start cutting in this circle that we want. And just like before, cutting in circles is pretty simple. You just add in bit by bit, however much you need, and then just start pulling things into place. Now this whole thing looks like it's like decoration, um, so it's probably going to be flat. We want it to be flattish. Um, so let's make a nice aligned thing here. Try to make it as vertical or as aligned and perfect as possible. And go in here with the face, selecting faces, and then we'll first let's flatten it out by using the align tool, or the scale tool. Sorry. Just line this up how we want so it doesn't look too weird, and then we'll extrude it, and then we'll extrude again, shrink it. Now you see how this happened? That's fine. Don't worry, we can fix this. You move it down, hit face tool again. Now, be careful when you extrude like this, because obviously it made faces here. This is fine, we can just delete them. But remember to delete them, or else they're going to cause trouble for you later when you do texturing. Because then you're going to have polys on the inside of your model that you don't want, that if you texture them, no one's going to see it anyways, because it's going to be on the inside of the model. So just make sure that you always clean up and double check your model to make sure that it's all clean on the inside. Extrude in. We don't want it to be much here. We just want enough to kind of get the form of it. Again, I made faces here that I want to delete. And then so now we want a sort of roundness, right? Because it's a jewel. So let's extrude, pull it out just a little bit, and then shrink it. Again, delete these. Pull it down till it's about even with the axis that you want it to be even with. In this case, this is the y-axis. Well, the actual grid axis is the z-axis that we're aligning it to. But we're using the y-axis here. The y is up, z is blue, and x is red. And then extrude again. Remember to tap that world locator, world manipulator, so that it will extrude in the angle that you want it. Now, when you're extruding something around like this, you have to keep into account the incremental changes in depth. So, what I mean by that is, if you look at it, if you look at the edges like this, you can see how it changes angle ever so slightly towards the center. Now we don't have to make it like amazingly perfect. I mean, this is a very small detail on the whole entire thing, but that's a very unique form of sphere topology that you can use